So thank you for joining us, Valente, and being our guest here at the Delta Oaks Ranch. I hope you feel at home here in the Delta area where you're originally from.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for being here.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I got my cafecito. It's all good now.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. So one of the first things I wanted to start asking, because most people don't know that you're originally from here, the Edcouch-Elsa. So which one, Edcouch or Elsa?
So both. So this is the thing. So I'm from Elsa, right? But I was actually born in Edcouch.
Wow.
Because back in the day, I was born in 1964. Back in the day, they did a lot of midwives, right? You didn't go to the hospital to have the baby. You just went to the midwife's house. And that's where it was, in Edcouch.
Wow.
But all of my life, I lived in Elsa. I know Edcouch because, it's so close.
Right.
But I lived in Elsa. I lived on 8th Street, over there by Litos, like 1 block from, and you're from Elsa, you know what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
1 block from Litos. I was about 3.5, 4 blocks from the Kennedy.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't know unless you're from here. It's a big deal. Like, it still happens to this day, unless you're here from. And what I mean is, like, they'll say, you're from Edcouch. No, I'm from Elsa.
Right. Yeah.
Or vice versa.
Or vice versa. Yeah. Porque es Edcouch-Elsa. So all of us went to school at the same school, ¿verdad?
Yeah.
And here's the deal. The people from Elsa, so the grades were separated. So you went to 1st and 2nd grade in Edcouch. And then you went to 3rd and 4th grade in Elsa. Then you went to 5th, 6th, and 7th grade in Edcouch. Then you came to high school in Elsa.
Right.
Because there's one road that divides the two towns, and the towns were so small they had to come together in Monte Alto and what's the other one? La Villa. To make that school. But I'm from Elsa, born in Edcouch, went to Edcouch-Elsa.
Oye, Valente, I know a little bit of history from Edcouch-Elsa.
A ver, dime.
So, cuando fuiste a la escuela here, right, when you went to school here, was it still divided? Because I remember there was the whites-only school.
Right.
Or had that I'm talking about the building that it still exists, that you know of it.
Yes. No, the building, no. It was all, by then it was all, because I actually have some of my relatives, my tia Tila, who's already passed.
Yeah.
One of her daughters, she experienced that, where it was still 2 different schools. The Mexicanos went to one school and the white kids went to another school. And she actually wrote to President Roosevelt or
one of the presidents.
Yeah. And they told her, the school district told her, no, because, she's in this grade and she's going to be, she doesn't know enough, it's not the same. And she went, no, it's okay. Just put her in there anyway. And they put her in there, and it actually turned out that she knew more. And so they had to advance her in a whole nother grade. So, the whole rationale they were using that, they're not ready, they're not smart, all this other kind of stuff. We already know that was, pardon my language, but bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And so, there was a time for that. And then, even just as significant back in 1968, when there was a lot of school walkouts going on.
Oh, yeah.
Edcouch-Elsa had a walkout.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that. Did you get to see it?
I know about it because I saw a part of the documentary that they had shot. They weren't allowed. The big thing was they weren't allowed to speak Spanish anywhere on campus.
Yeah.
Not in between classes, not during lunch break, not in the morning when you were dropped off, not afterwards when you were, and so you'd be punished for that. There were other things that they had, other demands that they had. They had like 10 demands about this and that. But the big thing is that they were expelled. There were like 100 of them that were expelled. And it went through the courts, and the court finally said, you can't do that. You can't expel that many kids. The only school that took them in was La Jolla, I believe. And the kids were being bused to La Jolla because they'd been expelled from Edcouch-Elsa.
Yeah.
For like 3 months, I think. And then eventually everything sorted out and they had to be, let back in. But that was back in the day when the administration was still, and the superintendents and all those people were all, for lack of a better word, white.
Yeah.
The establishment. And then all the Mexicanos were the ones who were being educated.
Right.
My time back when I hit school, in the 70s, all of that was already starting to change over. And then by the time I graduated high school, now most of the people that are in charge were Mexicanos as well.
Yeah, there was a transition.
I went through that whole transition period when at the beginning all the principals and even the teachers were white. Inside
the city hall here in Edcouch, they actually have like the the bylaws framed, the old bylaws, where the Mexicans, if you were Mexican, you were not allowed to live or go to a part of the town that was whites only.
Wow.
And they have it framed where they actually, I don't know how long ago, but not too long ago, it's crazy, right? They had to change the city charter, the city bylaws,
right,
to oust those old rules or city bylaws that were still on the city charter.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah, you couldn't, because you would get arrested.
Yeah. Well, in Los Angeles, we have some of that stuff in Los Angeles, and even big time more racist. They're called sundown laws, which meant if you were of a particular color, brown or black, you couldn't be in this place once the sun was down. So, and like places like Glendale until 1970 or 80, they still had that law that if you were caught and you didn't live there, you're driving around town, they could actually, take you in and lock you up because you weren't supposed to do that. You weren't supposed to be there after sundown.
So, Valente, being Mexican-American, coming from that kind of culture here,
right?
How did you break into Hollywood? How was your first break?
Well, the first thing that I had to do was get myself from the place I had become, the person I had become, to get to a place where I could play a whole bunch of different characters. So the first thing I had to do was try and lose as much of my accent as I could, and take diction classes and pronunciation classes and all this other kind of stuff to get my voice sounding like the way I wanted to sound it. So I could then go and try and do British or some other kind of accent. So all kinds of different classes. And when I tell young actors, when they ask me about training, that's the stuff you need to do. You need to get to a place where you're as malleable as possible. So when you receive a character, you can then become that character, right? You should be able, don't forget your accent, because you'll be able to use it in some of your characters.
Right.
But you want to do a whole bunch of characters. You don't just want to play this one Latino guy, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be able to do that. So you take all these classes that allow you to do that. But what I tell young performers, young artists all the time is, what you have to do is you have to concentrate on yourself and your work. You have to make that as best as you can. Make yourself be as good as you can. Don't worry about how it is that I compare to somebody else. Just worry about your own stuff. Take care of your own stuff so that you can become very good. Because when you make it to the professional world, you're going to be going up against people who, one, they have connections. They already networked because their dad's a director or a producer or something, or they live in Los Angeles and they've just been around this world the whole time. And it's not going to cost them $10,000 to move to LA to try to become an actor, right?
Yeah.
Or you're going up against somebody who went to Yale or Juilliard's or Carnegie Mellon with a ton of experience and just a ton of talent, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going up against the best people there are.
Yeah.
So you better make sure that your stuff is extremely good. And how do you do that? Well, by doing it over and over and over and over and over and studying your craft as much as you can, whatever it is that you do.
So did you ever lose some parts because they had that advantage against you?
Yes.
Like
many parts. Okay. Many parts, and overtly racist kind of stuff as well. Like I have two pictures. One of them has my name on it. The other one doesn't. And I sent one picture in. For whatever reason, my agent sent that one picture in, and they called me in, and my other picture had my name underneath it. And I walk in and they look at, I hand them my other picture and they see Valente Rodriguez underneath, and they go, give me a second. And they go back in the office and they come back and they go, oh, I'm sorry. There was some kind of misinformation in the casting. We can't see you for this.
And that still happened.
My faith was good enough.
Yeah.
But my name, once they saw Rodriguez, now this was about 10, 15 years ago. We might have a different, but there are, when they put out what they need today, when the TV film people, that's called breakdown.
Yeah.
Right? I need this lawyer and this doctor for these shows, blah, 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 blah. But it will say, it will say the white parts are auditioned for white people, and then the other smaller parts, it'll say all ethnicities, accepting all ethnicities.
Wow.
So I mean, black and Chinese and Japanese and Mexicans and all the other ethnicities can audition for these parts, but these other parts, no.
Mm-hmm.
We need to see now. I understand this is the character you wrote, right? You want to see this person playing this part, but from the very start, from the get-go, I don't even get to audition for those parts.
Wow.
I don't get into that little club right over there.
So how does that affect your psyche when you're competing, you're auditioning for those parts?
What I do is I take the opportunity that I've been given and try and make the best of that opportunity and show them that, man, there's something here. There's something here. There's a reason that this individual has been in this town for this long and has worked this much on these particular shows. There's some kind of something this individual has, right? And I'm going to show you what that is. And then I'm going to show you what it is that I can do with the smaller characters that you are allowing me to play.
Yeah.
And hopefully I can make a living at that.
Have you experienced anything like we had another guest here, Raymond Horta, and he was telling us about the dark side, for the lack of a better term, of Hollywood.
Right.
That, they'll give you a chance for this spot, but you got to do some things that are probably questionable. And I don't know if you saw that podcast.
I didn't see that, and I don't know exactly what he means by questionable. They goes from the darkest of dark, which means somebody taking advantage of you sexually or economically or some other way, emotionally, in order for this part, to something as simple as okay, you're going to do this part, but you got to do your own stunts. We can't afford a stunt man, right? Or we're going to do this one little stunt. It's not all that complicated. You just jump in the pool and that sort of stuff, right? And so they try and cut corners in that way to take advantage of you or like that. Or, oh man, it's lunch, but we need this last shot. Can we just work with you another extra 15 minutes and not really pay you because we got rules on everything, lunch break and all blah, 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 right?
Wow.
So you try to bend the rule here, bend the rule there. Then there's also, Hollywood's also been accused of, well, if you don't think the right way, you're not going to get a job. If you're not a liberal, you're not going to get a job. Or if you're not conservative, you're not going to get a job. Or if you're not blah, 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 right? You're not going to
So what's the majority? Is it liberal, conservative, or what's the main label?
I would say that it's liberal only because it's the type of industry that you're in, right? You're not in a conservative industry. Now, I would consider something like accounting a conservative industry, right? In the arts, you're telling stories from all over the world. You're telling brown people stories and white people stories and yellow people stories and orange people stories and purple people stories from all over the place. In order to do that well, extremely well, you need to really understand and have a little bit of empathy for all of these cultures. And so that leans towards being a liberal because that's what the word literally means, right?
Yeah.
All accepting and all that. Now, of course, you have morals and all this other kind of stuff that you have in your own head.
Right.
However, it leans that way. Conservative would be the other way, being more insular, trusting your community instead of going out into the other world, right?
Right.
Those are all generalizations. So yeah, it does lean that way. But here's the deal. Hollywood doesn't care what you think. You can be conservative, you can be liberal, you can worship this, you can worship that, you can do, your pot can be whatever. What matters is, are you an artist? Are you a creative? Are you that? If you're that, then what you're worried about is taking this particular script and giving your all to it and making the best of it. Regardless of whether this is a religious script and you're not religious, I'm still going to be for this script religious, or vice versa, the other way around.
You're acting.
You're acting. Yeah. You're doing your job at the best ability that you can. If you do that, well, then you're a worker, right?
Yeah.
Now, yes, of course. Is there a script that's about specific religion? It would probably be better if you lean that way because then you already have the history in your head and you can use that to play the character, right? It might be harder for you to do that if you're non-religious, right?
Right.
But this idea that Hollywood is some kind of cabal or Illuminati or some dark thing,
you haven't experienced that,
brother. It's an excuse you're using for your own psyche.
Okay.
Your own psyche. What you're doing is saying, I could have been better, or I could have been good, or I could be, but this thing is in my way.
Okay.
Right?
I get you what you're saying.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
Because other people have made it. How did they make it? They couldn't have all been connected. It couldn't all been networked. They don't all have famous parents. I certainly don't have a famous parent.
Yes.
How the hell did I do it?
So what were your challenges to make it in Hollywood then?
My biggest
you were
challenge...
willing to adapt to it. You're if I understand, you have to.
It wasn't so much an adaptation. You adapt to the city. You don't adapt to acting. I'd already been acting.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't change when I get to LA.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to do something different. I have to do the exact same things I was doing when I was doing on stage at Pan Am. I had to look for truth and honesty and plot and subplot and storyline and character motivation and character conflict. All the things you do, it's like fixing a carburetor.
Yeah.
It doesn't change because you're in LA. I don't have to fix it in a different way because no, I fix it in the same way, right? So that wasn't a change. What was a change is I went from a little bitty town to Los Angeles.
How was that?
Huge town. Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Because you get 24-hour-a-day town.
What year did you get there?
1987.
1987.
1987. So you get to big town, and then more importantly, you left most of your family or not all your family behind.
Yeah.
So extremely homesick. Because us Latinos here, man, you're probably getting together every weekend. Quinceañera, birthday, celebration, blah, 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 stock show, da, 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 da. And even just on normal days, you have cousins come by and you go visit your aunt, da, 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 da. None of that in LA, right?
Yeah.
And we don't know how much that affects us until we miss it. And then that's how come some people leave and they're back 3 months, 6 months, a year. Or not because it wasn't going so bad, but because they were just, I just can't. And you're in a big city and you got a lot of bills and, you know.
Yeah.
So that was the big adjustment. That was a really, really
big
big
sacrifice.
You need to make a sacrifice, and it needs to be important enough to you in order for you to make that sacrifice.
Yeah.
Some of us choose it before we really understand what that choice means.
Yes.
And I tell young actors all the time, if you choose it and you're into it 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you decide this isn't what I want, change.
Yeah.
Go do something else. Because
Yes.
it'll take your whole life. It has taken all of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been at it almost 40 years.
And how different is it, like being Mexican-American from here, from this region,
Right.
compared to Los Angeles?
I did have to learn a different kind of Mexicano language in LA, specifically because a lot of my early parts were gang members, and I still get cast as gang members, right? And I don't look like a gang member. And I'm from Texas, so I don't know that Los Angeles gang member. I was in a movie called Blood In, Blood Out that's gotten a lot of you wearing a t-shirt.
Yeah, right here.
That's right, brother. Vatos locos forever, carnal. So I had to learn that particular lingo, that particular language, and that particular rhythm, which was completely different to me. But one of the things that I have is I have a good ear, and so I mimic well, and so that was an adjustment for me to figure out how to play those characters. And I go into it with the same kind of thinking is. So I have a character in front of me, and if you look at the world and the kind of people we have in the world, there are all kinds. And no matter what character you write, there's somebody like that's like that who's living out there in the real world.
Yeah.
There's going to be somebody like that. And the whole key is to try and bring as much truth and honesty to that particular character. That character wants things. That character has things in its way of what it wants, the conflict and all that. How do they deal with that? They're all human beings, no matter how messed up in their head they are, or how weird or how eccentric they are. They all have something they want. They all have something that's in their way of them getting what it is they want. So those are things you concentrate on to make character.
I'm curious, Valente. So what year did you graduate from here?
From Edcouch-Elsa, I graduated in 82.
Okay. Before 1982, Valente, let's back up.
Right.
And this is where I'm going to. So when did it happen, or it dawned one day, hey, I want to act? Or did that develop earlier than that? ¿Cómo empezaste? Who maybe inspired you here locally?
Yeah,
Teacher,
no, that's a great story.
Or an actor? Yeah.
No, that's a great story. I didn't want to be, and I talked to kids a bunch, and when they asked me, like, did you always know you wanted to be an actor?
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them, no. I don't remember the first thing I wanted to be, but I do remember the first thing I didn't want to be, and I didn't want to be poor the way we were poor.
Yeah.
Migrant farm worker, 2 pairs of jeans and 3 pairs. And we were all in all the federal aid. We qualified for all of it, from standing at the post office waiting for those food boxes. You remember those food boxes we used to get? The blocks of cheese and the can of chicken.
Yeah.
I love that
powdered
stuff.
milk.
Oh, and the powdered eggs. I loved it. I loved it. We qualified for that. We qualified for aid from, they would give us vouchers and we'd take them to a store. And there was a store in Elsa called Arguelles. I actually went to school with one of them. And we would, voucher in, and they'd give us some shirts and pants and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so I didn't want to be poor. I'm number 8. A lot of my older brothers and sisters made all these weird choices, hard choices to get away from that hard life that didn't turn out well. One ran away and joined the army, and another one went to drugs, and another one went to prison, and another one had children early, blah, 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 blah. So by the time I was old enough to start figuring it out, 12, 13 years old, I figured education was going to be my way.
Yeah.
It was going to be education. And for whatever reason, and I think the migrant farm worker lifestyle kind of helped, it makes you adjust because you're in 3 months here, 3 months there, 3 months here. So it makes your mind have to adjust quickly. So I had a little bit of a brain, and I started doing well in school. And so I thought, okay, don't want to be poor, want to be rich. I want to be a lawyer. All right, I'm going to be a lawyer, right? About my sophomore, junior year in high school.
Wow, okay.
I had this English teacher named Kent Smither. Kent Smither was also the theater department, right? He was the director of UIL, the one-act play, right? And so I was in UIL because I was preparing to be a lawyer. So I was in the speaking events. I was in the debate events, persuasive, blah, blah, blah. And through the UIL, they were going to have a class, a UIL class, and I could sign up for it, and I could study my debating and all that kind of stuff. So I signed up for the class, but the class was also the drama class, right? There was a show in the fall and the show in the spring. The show in the spring was a competition show. The show in the fall was a show called Godspell. They needed 10 actors for Godspell. They had 9.
Wow.
Smithers said, "You're going to be in the show." I'm like, "What?" "Well, you're in the class, you're in the show." But I had to sing. I never sung, not really, on stage. And this was really the first stage. I'd done Christmas shows, playing the
class act.
Yeah, that sort of stuff. Right.
I get you.
And so, but this was going to be an actual show. So I did Godspell. And then I got cast in the UIL one-act play, all the while still thinking, I'm going to be a lawyer, I'm going to be a lawyer, I'm going to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
Got that theater show, and it's just it was paradise, brother. It was, I found it. I found the thing. It was like eating sugar.
That's when you got it. This is what I want to do.
I was like, oh my God, I can't get enough of this thing. I need more and more and more.
Yeah.
Cast me in the UIL thing, one-act play called Scapino. We did really well, man. We made it.
Is there video of that on YouTube, or does somebody have any of that?
Somebody might have some video of that.
That'd be interesting too.
But this was before cell phone and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but the schools they were used
there
to.
Might be. Yeah, there probably is. There probably. I know I have some pictures of it.
Yeah, okay.
Right? So was going to go away to school, right? And did the one-act play. We did row. I got a bunch of awards and stuff for playing the parts I did. So everything was going good. And I was going to go away to school. Kent Smither says, and I talked to Kent, my teacher, and I said, man, he goes, how are you doing? I said, well, I'm a little worried because although I'd been all over the United States, I'd always been with my family, right? But this is me going off by myself, going off to college.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, why don't you go college here at Pan Am, summer, and that'll get you used to college, right? Yeah. And then that'll less worry. But that meant I was going to graduate Friday and then start college Monday. I'd have 2 days off. And I'm like, Mr. Smither, I don't know. And I kept putting them off. And I was like, I don't have a ride. He's like, I'll come get you. I was like, I don't have money. I know the Rotary.
Sounds like he really wanted to help you.
Dude, he drove me there.
Wow.
I put him off. The registration had already happened. I didn't have blah, 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 blah. He drove me there, introduced me to Marion Monta, another amazing, important person in my life, and got me into what they call Pan American Summer Stock. They did 4 theater shows in 6 weeks. And it was 2 classes, but that's all you did. Theater, no English, no math, no nothing. It was just summer session, right? And that right there was like, this is it.
You found it.
I'm in heaven. This is what I want to do my whole life. And then about my sophomore year, I went, I don't need to be a lawyer, man. I'm going to get a college degree. I'm never going to be that poor again.
Yeah.
Ever, ever, ever. So I'm going to study this. I'm going to be as good as I can with this. So around my sophomore year, I thought, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do this, because my thinking was also, I'm gonna have a college degree, right?
Yeah.
So I could be a theater teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I could work my technical background, because the great thing about Pan American back then is it was a really, really small school in terms of the department itself, and so you got to do everything. You got to work lights, you got to work sound, you got to work camera, you got to work and you were also an actor, right? There were actors over there were here.
Yeah.
So you got a lot of skills, a ton of skills. So I knew I wasn't going to ever be, really, really poor again. But then we did some productions and everything was going really, really well. I told Dr. Manta, yes, I think I want to be an actor. She said, these are the classes you want to take. I did all the things that they told me I needed to do to get to the place I needed to be. And then my senior year, we had a show. The universities also have competitions where they bring plays, and if you get selected, you move on to the next round. And we had a really good year that year. We kept moving on and moving on and moving on. We made it all the way to Dallas, one step away from nationals. And once there was this woman who was auditioned for the Young Company at the Kennedy Center, and she saw the show that we did, and it was really good. It was really, really good. We had a really good night. We didn't make it to nationals, but we had a really good night. And that woman came up to me afterwards and she goes, I want you to audition for the Young Company, right? And, but it would mean I would have to not finish my degree.
Oh.
It was going to be like 1 or 2 semesters.
Yeah.
I would have to do those, so I wouldn't get a degree. So I said, man, I thank you for offering me the audition. Not that she was going to accept me or anything, but I can't. There's just no way. I have to finish my diploma. I got to get my degree, right? And then afterwards we'll do whatever. But what that did is that gave me more confidence, because in my mind I'm thinking, if this woman who's casting for this national company thinks I have enough to audition for her, she's considering me.
Yeah.
There might be something here, right?
Oh, definitely.
Right. And so then when I graduated in 86, I had no money at all. I'm like, ¿Qué voy a hacer? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? He goes, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a year of graduate school. I'm going to get a loan. I'm going to take most of it, put it in the bank, use a little bit of it, go to school, and then use that money next year to go to LA.
Right.
And that's what I did. I took a $2,500 loan. I used $500 to pay tuition and stuff like that, put $2,000 in the bank, and then the very next year I left. And Marion Manta gave me $1,000 as well. A professor at the university wrote me a check for $1,000. Eventually, when I paid that money back, like 4 or 5 years later, once I was making money, she's like, no, you don't need to pay me back. Just need to pay it forward. And this was way before the movie Pay It Forward came out.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the things I do, a lot of the talking I do in front of schools and students is because of that, because I have great debts to pay back to my teachers, who are just amazing individuals who saw things in me that I didn't see, and they're completely responsible for all the success I've had. I wouldn't be anywhere near what I am without them.
Have you had the opportunity to maybe? I know you go and speak at some schools. Mm-hmm. But actually look at the talent at any level that you see, you know what, there's a lot of talent here in the Valley that could make it in Hollywood.
There is a lot of talent. And yes, I have. And I know a lot of people. I know because I've done some stuff with the people down here. The downside for me is that, I'm already in the big leagues and I'm already a member of the union and stuff like that. I can't do any non-union work. And most of the work that's going on down here is non-union, which is great because that means anybody can do it. So you don't have to be a member of a union to get your experience, and that's how you should do it, right? Yeah. You should also take acting classes and stuff like that. But experience in front of a camera is completely invaluable. You have to have it. There are things that you'll learn there that you won't learn anywhere else. And so that's really, really good. So I'm completely familiar with some of the talent. I know some of these people, and I know they're exceptionally talented. The thing is that you need to have enough confidence and trust yourself enough to say to yourself, I'm going to go to the big town and I'm going to try it over there. I'm going to see if I can swim in that river, and a lot of times that's the only thing that's lacking is for you to have enough confidence, because I can see you got the talent. You just need not to get nervous when people gives you the opportunity, because that's also a big thing. How do you handle your nerves when all of a sudden you have a part that you might be acting opposite Julia Roberts or Meryl Streep or whomever?
Yeah.
Right? And so ego plays a huge part, part. Then the other thing comes in that, do they want to leave the Valley? They might be really good, but they don't want to leave. And so That's fine. I mean,
That happens
it's your
a lot here
life,
in the
right?
Valley.
It's your life, and you need to make the choices that are best for you. And then the other thing is, sometimes it's best to keep hobbies as hobbies.
Mhm.
Because when hobbies become jobs, well, then you're a job.
Yeah.
And you don't enjoy it as much because now you have to do it instead of just doing it when you want to do it. You know, so.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it does.
Yeah. So when you were acting, did you ever get starstruck where you were like, "Oh man, I'm here with so and so," and it kind of affected you? Do you have some of those stories?
That never affected me on stage or in, while working. Beforehand, when I get a job and they tell me who it is, or who it is, because in the breakdown, that thing that they send and tell you what we need and all that, they also tell you who the other people are that are playing the parts, right?
Uh-huh.
So I go into audition for something like a movie called It's Complicated, and I know that this scene is with Meryl Streep. I'm talking with Meryl Streep. She's the head of boss and I'm her cook, and we're talking back and forth about the muffins. So I know it's with Meryl Streep. So yeah, those thoughts go into your head. Oh my God, I might be with what some consider the best actress of all time. Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah.
But when you get down to doing the work, then it's about the work. So then you concentrate on the work. And now this other person that's in front of you, that's not Meryl Streep. That's my boss. Mm-hmm. That's Mrs. Blah, 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 who owns the shop, and I'm her cook, so I'm living in that world.
You go into character.
Exactly. Well, and then afterwards, I might go back to being Valente, and there's Meryl Streep, and I'm like, oh my God, that sort of stuff.
I've noticed that other people and kind of in your niche in the market, actors and so forth, and that I feel and I can kind of sense where it's game face on. Like they click it.
Yes.
Right. And it's different.
Yes.
So I guess that's when they go into character kind of and you pick up on it.
Sure. Because here's the other thing. So performers have this energy, like you're saying, it feels like they flick a switch and all of a sudden they get more energy, or they're into their character, right?
Like más ánimo or something. I don't know what to call it.
But you have to, as a human being, just as a normal human being, you have a particular amount of energy for this day.
Yeah.
A particular amount of energy. If you have to be on stage at 8 p.m. tonight,
mm-hmm.
you tailor your whole day to peak at 8 p.m. Your energy has to be the best right there, because that's performance time, right?
Yeah.
And so when you're shooting movies and TV, you have the same kind of flow, because you might be rehearsing for 2 or 3 hours, and you need to be in character then, but where it's really going to matter is when the camera's on,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So you have to, and then sometimes the camera's on you, not on me, but I'm still acting for 2.5 hours because we're shooting your scene. Over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Am I going to do my part over 2.5 hours también? And then they're going to turn the camera around and do another 2.5 hours of me también? So I might be giving you less energy here or something, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to manage your energy throughout the day in terms of, when am I on screen? When am I not on screen? When am I on stage? When is the camera on? When am I just being the other person to talk back to you and that sort of stuff? So there's a lot of that sort of management going on so that you can do your best when you are supposed to be doing your best.
Right. I'm also curious about this, Valente, going back a little bit, or a lot, right? So traditionally, most people here from the Valley, I want to be an actor.
Right.
How challenging was that in your own family? Telling you, I don't know, was it accepted? Did they give you free? Oh, okay, so you're laughing.
No,
¿Cómo le dijiste a tus parents? Hey, guess what? I'm going to be an actor and I'm going to make it. Oh, so tell us about that. How do you?
So I never had the idea that I'm going to make it. First of all,
okay,
I never thought this is 100%. I'm sure I'm this confident in me. I was confident that I could do the scripts that were put in front of me. Yeah. I wasn't sure that my work was going to be good enough. I'm good enough here, but I don't know if stacked up against those guys, I'm going to be good enough, right?
Right.
And so that thought of I'm gonna go and make it never occurred to me. I was hoping I was gonna be successful enough to pay bills and call myself an actor my whole life, but I wasn't thinking red carpet, Academy Award, blah 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 blah, that sort of stuff, right? And then in terms of my own family, my dad went to the 3rd grade. My mom went to the 2nd grade. the world that they grew up in, he was born in 1921. My mom was born in 1923, was completely different world than the world that I grew up in. And so I'll tell you a quick story. My dad in Spanish, when I said, I think I want to go to LA and become an actor, he says, because he loves cowboy movies and cowboy stuff.
Yeah.
He goes, oye, mijo, dile que te pongan en el show de Little Joe. I'm like, Little Joe? What show? What little? Pues Bonanza, que te pongan en Bonanza, right? That show's been canceled for over 25 years, right? Even when he was watching it, it was already canceled.
Right.
But in his head, because of the world that he comes from, he kind of didn't sort of really understand that, right?
But he was supportive then.
He was totally supportive in, this is what you want to do? I support you, mijo.
Awesome.
You go do it. And then because even when they went to see me in high school, we're doing that show, and then they started seeing me at Pan Am doing theater shows, then they started getting proud because they saw other people in the audience clapping and standing, and there's my kid, and that's me. That's. And then I went to LA and got a movie, 4 months after I was there, and I was in the paper. I came out at El Jale, and then my mijo's a movie star. My mijo's a movie star. Yeah, they're totally proud, which makes me feel awesome, right?
Yeah,
we all want to make our parents proud. So they were completely supportive in that way. Some of my brothers and sisters are always supportive.
Yeah.
Cousins and other family members,
friends.
Certain family friends were like, you'll be back. You'll be back in 3 months.
Yeah, but that never happens here in the Valley. Everybody's so supportive of each other.
No, hombre, but that's a cool thing about family, especially if you have a big family, you have supporters and you have detractors and you have enemies and you have friends become enemies and enemies become friends. It's just, it's this beautiful, beautiful mix of all kinds of people.
Have you stayed connected with anybody back here in the Valley?
I have, as much as I can. I mean, I got a cousin that I almost always talk to. I come down 4 or 5 times a year, and now even more because I'm starting to do the stand-up and stuff like that.
Okay.
And a lot of the other thing that happened is a lot of the people that I went to school with have since become theater teachers.
Oh.
Right? And so I go talk to their classes and stuff, and do interviews and stuff. We just came over from an interview with Telemundo, because the other thing I want to make sure, and one of the reasons I do stuff like this is to let them know, look, you can do it. You can do it. You can accomplish it from here. You can do it. But it's not going to be easy, and it might not happen. Because not only do you have to be talented, not only do you have to work hard, but then you have to be lucky as well. Mm-hmm. You have to be at the right place at the right time. You have to get the opportunity. A quick story. There was a book called "And the Earth Did Not Swallow Him." Y no se lo tragó la tierra. It was written originally in Spanish and then translated in English. Tomás Benítez, I think it is. And they were making a movie of it, and I loved the book. And I ran into the writer happenstance, and I told him I love the book. Blah 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 blah. And he told me, "Hey, we're making a movie." Blah blah blah. Blah, and I'm blah, blah, blah. And I got the audition for it. And the night before, I hurt my back. I mean, literally hurt my back, fell on the ground and could not move. I was on the sofa for 3 or 4 days. I really couldn't move, taking painkillers, blah, 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 blah. I missed the audition. 1.5 years later, I run into him again. He goes, "Man, where were you?" I said, "What? What do you mean?" He goes, "Why didn't you come into the audition?" I told him all about you. You pretty much had the part. They already knew your work. You just needed to show up to the audition. I'm like, dude, I was on the couch. I could not move, right? Uh-huh. So something as simple as that, you miss something that was already an opportunity there. Or I already have a job and I'm going to be in Denver and they're auditioning in LA and I can't even make it, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be lucky in that you have to be at the right place at the right time, right?
Right.
To get those opportunities. And then you have to make the best of opportunities in order to get the next opportunity because you build one show at a time.
Yeah. So what's the future projects that you have? Where are you going to evolve? You're going to stay acting? What are the future maybe movies you're in?
I think the thing that I do best is act. I think that's really the thing that I do best. I want to keep doing that as long as I can. But I'm developing scripts. I already got 2 or 3 things. I'm working some stuff with Jesse Borrego. We're writing some stuff together. Waiting on some more things. Then doing stand-up as well. I've been out doing stand-up. I find that I have a kind of a talent for that.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing you.
You'll see it tonight, ¿verdad?
Yeah, and on Saturday.
And on Saturday también, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. I'm interested. Other friends that I have, and they write and this and that, but just for pleasure or for fun, right? Like a hobby.
Right.
So are you familiar with those what they call them ghostwriters?
Yes.
So what can you tell us about somebody that's aspiring to write a story using a ghostwriter?
So the ghostwriter usually writes all of it for you. You tell them the story and they write it. Sometimes it works that you've written it already and they take a look at it and they come in and rewrite it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time they write the majority part of the story. And most of the time it's somebody speaking their story to someone and then they take it down and then they go home and restructure it and stuff like that. And there's plenty of those around. And what the thing to have there is to have a really, really, really interesting story.
Okay.
Really, really interesting story. It can't just be normal every day. You know, it's got to be something like, I was a migrant farm worker, and then I made it all the way to the George Lopez show. Yeah. That's sort of interesting kind of.
Well, that's why I'm going with that. There's so many interesting stories coming from the Valley.
Yes.
So do you see there's a chance, an opportunity with a good story that it could break in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But it's not just a story and it's not just idea. I have a million people coming up to me and saying, I have this great idea. You know what? Everybody has a great idea. Mm-hmm. And probably 20 different people have already, the idea that you just had, they've already had it, right? So that's not it. Write it. Mm-hmm. Put it down on paper or on the computer or whatever. Write it. And if it's just long form, fine. If it's just you tell the whole story, fine. Or if it's you a script form, fine. And these days you can go on the internet and the internet will teach you how to do all of that. How to write a script, what do you need to do, storyline, beat line, all this other kind of stuff. That's the important part because everybody has ideas and there's tons of good ideas, but you need to write the story. You need to get it down on paper in order for that to happen. The Rio Grande Valley is a great place for that. A great place for that because for 100, 150 years, it's been like an incubator all the way down here at the bottom of the United States. And for the first 140 years of those, we were completely isolated. You couldn't get to us from the rest of America, right? You have to go through the King Ranch just to get to this little section of.
Yeah, a lot of history.
And completely unique. Completely unique. As unique as a little border town on the border of the US and Canada. Mm-hmm. Right? Like those people who kind of sound Canadian when they, that live up there in North Dakota and, that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's what we had. But even more so because on the other side of the river, there's a completely other country that's really our country.
Yeah.
Because we're on both sides, right?
Yeah, we're responsible to know two cultures.
That's right. And it's amazing stories. Stories about revolution and stories about civil war and stories about migration, stories about great successes, stories about great sacrifices, stories about, swimming. Just amazing over-the-top stories, right? In order to take those stories and write them down, and then those stories are the ones that we need to try and put out in front of the rest of the world.
So after they write it down, what do? Do they try to make it a book? Or they pitch it to people? What is there a process?
A couple of different. There's no one particular process, but the easiest process is write a script and send it into film festivals. Every single film festival that I know has a script competition. And what they do is they accept however many scripts they sent in, and then they choose 5. And then of those 5, they choose 1. And there's a winner. And usually that script will get $200, $300, $500, $1,000 maybe. The larger the film festival, the more money you have. At these film festivals are different people associated with the industry in different ways. Producers, directors, actors, blah, 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 blah. I might go to a film festival or I might see something at a film festival, which actually just happened. I saw something 2 years ago. I saw the director, and he and I started talking. The director said, I have this other project. I said, I can't do it unless it's union. He goes, well, maybe we can work, blah, 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 blah. Later. We filmed it already in last December in Brownsville, right?
Uh-huh.
So that's the way it works. You get your script. Your script will open doors for you. There might even be somebody at a festival that says, I want your script. Mm-hmm. I want to do it. You start talking to them. You work a deal with them, right? 90-20, whatever the deal might be.
Right.
But you start working it in that way. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it, you write a great script, you send it to some agents in Hollywood, and you look for representation for a writer's agent.
Okay.
So that's the other way to do it. The third way to do it is you write a great script. It might cost you $10,000 to do. You just go ahead and do it. You pull a Robert Rodriguez. No, $10,000 to make it.
Okay.
You're going to write it for free because you're not getting paid to write it
Right.
because it's yours, right?
Yeah.
So you write it for free, then you take $10,000 and you go out and shoot it.
Okay.
Whether it's a film about a quinceañera or a film about the chupacabra or a film about surfing or the film about the big bird, whatever. A film, the 10 minutes, 15. To shoot an hour and a half movie, it's going to be more than $10,000, right?
Yeah.
But you could shoot a short and you could do the same thing with a short. Then send the short to film festivals and somebody likes your short and wants to buy it from you to make a larger movie. So you could do it that way as well.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, but I do have Mr. Smithers.
Hola.
So
We have him on the screen?
yeah, well, not only that, but we're going to try to give him a call right now.
Oh,
Okay.
we're going to give him a call.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if he's going to be home or not.
Yeah, we're high tech here.
Oh my gosh, I haven't called him in a long
Your
time.
call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to...
He's not there. Well, let me pick up. Let me see if he calls if he answers again.
Yeah.
No, he thinks you're a telemarketer. I don't think
They're like, who the hell is this? Yeah, let's see.
it's a telemarketer. I don't think he's gonna.
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Smither?
Hello? Yeah.
Kent?
Hi.
Kent, this is Valente.
Yes. Hi, Valente. How are you doing?
sir? I'm doing well.
I'm doing good. I feel more at home with...
I'm doing good. I'm doing well. Look, there it is. So, sir, Kent, I'm doing a podcast, and I mentioned your name as I always do. And they found pictures of Godspell. We're looking at pictures of Godspell and talking to you on the phone during this podcast.
Is this the ones that were on the stage?
Yes. Yes, I'm wearing.
Okay.
I see David and Livorio
I
there
have
in
them
front.
someplace, but I can locate them myself.
I see Teresa. I see Doris. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
This is 40 years ago.
David and Debbie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
David and Debbie. That's amazing.
Michelle.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So we just wanted to call you and say hi and mention that you're totally responsible for my success.
Ruining your life.
Ruining my life. That's exactly right. I have you to blame. No, I'm telling him a story how you dragged me to college and introduced me to another evil person, Marion Monta, and
Yep.
she added even more stuff to the whole brew.
I know.
It's crazy.
An evil seductive plot.
Evil seductive. How have you been? You been well?
Yes, I'm off to Judge Plays tomorrow and going to pronounce spelling for UIL regionals in San Antonio tomorrow.
See what I'm saying? This is the life that you give yourself to takes your whole life, you know, but it's okay because that's what you love to do.
Tell us a little bit about Valente when he was young, sir. The podcasters would love to hear some stories or at least one story that you can tell us that, somebody would enjoy to hear about Valente when he was young. How old were you? 15, 16?
Yeah.
Maybe 17?
Yeah. 16, 17.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was senior year.
Senior year. So how was Valente?
It was senior year. He was a wonderful English student and a reluctant theater student.
I told him you wrote me into number 10. I was the last actor you cast.
Wow. It was meant to be.
Well, my version is a little different than his. So do you want to hear my version?
Yes, we do. We'd love to hear it. Tell us about it.
Okay. So, Valente was an informative speaker. Is that what you were?
Yeah, affirmative
Or persuasive.
Yeah.
Okay. He signed up for UIL, a UIL class. And the counselor said, okay, there's no UIL class in the fall, in the spring, so we're putting you in theater. And he said, no, you're not. And they said, yes, that's the only class that's available that fits.
Right. Wow.
So that's where they put it. And he didn't want to be there. And I was doing the first musical Edcouch had ever done.
Yeah. What was the first one, huh?
Budget. We had a budget at that time. This was 1979 of $100 total.
Wow.
Props, costumes. Now they did pay if we went to contests. They did pay for the bus. Right. Or if we advanced, they did pay for hotels.
The burgers at Waterbed.
Yes, those things. But as far as the show, so like when you see those pictures of Godspell, not one penny was spent on the costumes or the set.
Wow.
We borrowed the set from what do you call it? Like the people that did construction.
Yeah.
It was scaffolding and platforms.
Yeah, we
that we
saw
borrowed.
that. Does that building still exist? Is that
Yes,
Hyundai Torque
it's
or
the
is
junior high gym.
yeah the junior high?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
still
there.
okay. All right.
Yeah, and half
Yeah,
the
we were the first.
Yeah, the house was for a
Go ahead.
while. The house had stacks of chairs over there in the back, stacks and stacks, and the stage was a clear area. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Is there any video maybe or other pictures that you all have of the show?
I bet there are people that have some video, but I don't.
yeah.
Okay, it'd be interesting to see.
Because this
I
was
don't
back
know.
in the day before the video phones and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been somebody that like a parent that brought a video camera.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Well,
But anyway,
we're very appreciative that you helped them out. If not, we wouldn't have Valente. We enjoyed his work, so that's just quite inspiring.
what's other cool thing that happened? The next show we did was a competition show, and we went state with it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Valente won acting awards all the way through regionals.
Yeah.
And I remember him telling me that when his parents saw his medal from regionals for All-Star Cast, they were like, "That's nice, mijito," like it was a certificate for perfect attendance.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
no real understanding of what that was, you know. But anyway, going back to me seducing Valente, which is going to sound racier than it actually was. So we were doing this first musical, and I've heard from other students that they all knew we would never pull it off, that Edcouch would never put on a musical, but they like patted me on the shoulder and were kind and like, "We'll just make him think we believe in all of this. We'll play along."
And
So,
you did.
at
You
any
did
rate-
it. Yeah, you guys really
Yeah, and
succeeded.
what was cool was that was the springboard for that principal that we had at the time to decide that UIL was an academic UIL and theatrical UIL was a way to make Edcouch shine, not just athletics, but in other areas.
Yeah.
And he credited those two shows that year with being the springboard for a rejuvenation at Edcouch where the kids thought, we can compete.
Yeah.
We're worthy.
And they did compete because they went back to state. They went back and back and back, and it was a
Yeah.
so many talented individuals on that stage just right now that I see. Livorio and David and Cindy and Teresa and Dolores. No,
Yeah.
it's just so many. It was so beautiful, so beautiful. And
Yeah. Where was it?
and even
It was magical.
It was, and even in that small little, we didn't freaking care. You know, there were spider webs over there in the corner, and it was dusty and all that. But we were having a great time, man.
Yeah.
We're having a great.
Do you remember that warm-ups? Do you remember that the room we rehearsed in was what used to be the old auditorium,
Yeah.
but it had been converted into classrooms, so there was only a little chunk of it left at the front.
Yeah.
And it was a storage area, and the janitors would throw anything that was broken or
Right.
torn up
You see
in
that
there.
stuff in back?
Yeah, I see all those stacked up.
Yeah, we're looking at a picture of
And-
that place.
Yeah.
When that's the one I have.
Right.
At any rate, so our warm-up was to clean the stage off because there would be desks and things that we'd have to call up.
There's
and
always
back
stuff
from
to
the back.
move. Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
trying
every
to
day.
figure out that shirt that you're wearing. Is that a yellow jacket shirt
Yes.
or?
Yes, it is. It's black and gold, and the gold it says.
Yeah.
I think it says Avispa on it.
Yeah. I think it says
Yeah, I
attack, a
think it
yellow,
does.
yellow jacket attacks,
Yeah.
or something like that.
It was a beautiful car. I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
You still look
Okay, so going back once more time to the seduction.
Yeah.
So we're working the first 6 weeks on getting prepared to audition, and I'm teaching them all a couple of songs to sing, and I'm teaching them all a dance routine, and I'm having them memorize a passage from the play, a little monologue so that I can hear that they can memorize and I can see, you know, blah, 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 blah. And Valente was just rolling his eyes at me. And I went over to him and I said, look, and by the way, he was Billy then. He wasn't Valente.
Billy, we haven't even.
He was Valente, but no one called him Valente. So I went over to Billy and I said, look, you don't have to be in the show. You're in this class and the audition is the 6 weeks exam. So you need to prepare for the audition.
Right.
You need to learn the music. You need to learn the songs. You need to learn a passage so that you get your grade.
Right, right.
But on the audition sheet, which you'll be filling out, just say, I'm not interested in being cast. And that's fine. You can still get the grade for the audition.
Mm-hmm.
Me knowing that he was going to like the music and that he was going to actually find out he liked dancing, even if he wasn't good at it.
Right.
That it was fun to work with a team like this because he was an individual competitor, not a team competitor.
Yeah.
And that I thought I knew he was really smart because I had him in English.
Right.
So I was seeing him twice a day.
Oh.
And I knew he was in, well, I don't know if you know this, but that class, your period that year learned more vocabulary than any other class I've ever had.
Wow.
That particular group of 30 kids or whatever it was. You all played games throwing vocabulary words into your conversations in class.
Right.
Y'all would crack each other up with sticking a vocabulary, a big, 12-syllable word into the sentence.
Right.
Y'all played with it. And that's why you learned so much.
Yeah.
It was cool. It was really, I was just like in heaven. No other group has ever gone that route.
Yeah. I think
that particular class.
That's awesome.
Anyway, so we have auditions. And on the back of Valente's audition sheet, he wrote, you can cast me if you want to.
He flipped it back to you. And the rest is history. Wow.
And the rest is history. Because he thinks he was the last person cast. That's not accurate.
Wow.
I always wanted him in the show because I could see he was a joker.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I saw him in English.
he's a comedian now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a comedian. I mean, he always was. So, it was, and, comedians are always super smart.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Comedians, they can't make those kind of comic connections without a really quick brain.
Right.
And so your comedians are always going to be way high IQ type people.
Yeah.
They just are.
Yeah, to be witty.
They have a deep understanding of things.
Yeah. No, I think it was a
And he
special
was like
time.
that.
It was also a special time, Kent, because I mean, before internet and all this other kind of stuff, and then finding my tribe, I guess, to use a modern word, finding those people because I really was, like you were saying, an individual up to that point, and then finally finding the other weirdness that matched my weirdness, and it just felt really comfortable, really, really comfortable.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing when you find that because people like me, people like you, they frequently feel like they don't really fit in and they just have to isolate themselves and do their own little niche, weird thing alone. And then if you're fortunate and meet some others and get into something that you can work with, it's like you spring to life in a way that you never would have.
Isn't it? That's beautiful. Yeah.
I think, as much as I say you have to blame me for your life, I think your life is probably more full of joy than it would be if you'd been a lawyer.
Oh, I'm sure of that. I'm positive of that. I think 2 days.
I mean, maybe it had negatives, but joy and self-expression and being your authentic self and all that.
Yeah.
It's also been very inspiring, I mean, for the people here in the Delta area and being Mexican-American to see somebody succeed and representing us at some level.
Mm-hmm.
When we see shows and movies and all that, it's inspiring.
Yeah.
So that's a big positive.
That's a beautiful thing all the way around.
Yes. So
No, it absolutely is. And I was determined. I just felt like it's where he ought to be going, even though he thought he would be smarter to go into law. I really did continue the seduction. I went to Dr. Monta and got him a scholarship for that summer stop.
Yeah, we heard that story.
Yeah. No, I'm
Because I just felt like if he kept going a little bit further, he might realize it was more true to who he really was.
yeah.
And I hope, honestly, I hope I didn't overstep, but it felt important to me.
No, I think you did overstep, but that's even more important, you know, to have the sense of when you should and when you shouldn't, and the courage it took to do that. You know, I think that's what makes you an exceptional human being, Kent, is you take that risk. You took that risk to do that. And you took the risk with every single one of us. You didn't just do this for me. You had, you know, particular relationships with everybody in the cast and all of your students. And I think that's what makes you an amazing teacher, an amazing human being.
Oh, well, thank you. I remember Debbie Villarreal was quitting.
Yeah.
Was quitting Godspell. And I remember I met her out in what is the little parking lot that used to be in front of the band hall.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if it's even what's still there,
Right.
but the high school, what was the high school cafeteria and the band hall area, there was a little parking lot over there on the side. And she was walking, I think maybe to walk home. And I caught her and I just made an impassioned speech about how she belonged and how she was wonderful and how she would, you know, not to be afraid of it or whatever. I don't know what her reason that she wanted out.
Right.
But it may have been fear of singing, you know, a solo or who knows.
Sure.
But out of that, she says is what brought her to her radio career.
Wow.
You know, and then, you know, then went back into special ed.
Right.
Which was taking some of that teacher making a difference in people's lives thing another step further.
The only thing I wish
yeah.
is I wish I had discovered it earlier. I wish I'd have been in there as a freshman.
I wish I had to.
You know,
Well, how much difference would that have really made? Just for your personal enjoyment, you mean? Or do you think it would have made a difference in your career? I mean, you.
I think I wouldn't have been. I think my plan would immediately have been probably by my sophomore or junior year in high school. I think I would have already been planning to go to Pan Am, and I think I would have already been exposed to Marion Monta. I would think I've already been exposed to all of that kind of stuff, and
because we were invited to perform at the university.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember.
Well, and we also used to. I do remember that you guys used to bus us to Pan Am to see some of the shows that Pan Am put on as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that would have been.
Cool
I don't know. You know, life gets in the way sometimes, and maybe something else would have happened. But I think that those years would have been just as important as the 1 year I had. But you know, it worked out that way for a reason sometimes.
Exactly. Everything always balances out and works out. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking our call. We've really enjoyed conversing with you. And we were thinking you were going to ignore the call again, thinking it was a telemarketer or something.
Yeah. There's so many fraud calls.
Yeah, that's so true. But my phone acts weird about, I have trouble hearing unless I'm on speaker.
Oh.
And that's, I think, being 71 years old, that might be a part of it.
Right.
Well, thank you so much.
I always
sir.
worry now as a judge, am I criticizing their diction because I can't hear?
Well, thank you so much, sir, and taking the time of the day to take our call.
Okay, well, I wanted to just put one thing in just in case it came up. I am officially an honorary Mexican. I didn't know if y'all knew that.
Okay, there you go. You're one of us.
But yeah, absolutely. In my second semester of Spanish, I always took Spanish for the Spanish speaking because I speak Spanish. And the first semester I got an A. Second semester I had a La Raza professor who would yell and scream in class about what they are doing to us,
Right.
and how we are being held down by them. And you could see everybody in the room looking very uncomfortably at me. All the kids. Like, sir, there's one of them in here, you know. So this was a night class, and during the break, they went out and said, okay, look, we're going to make you an official Mexican because we can't stand this. And I was like, okay. So you're now an honorary Mexican. And I said, okay, thank you. You know, so I can be mad at them too.
There you go.
And I got a C in that class.
Oh, see what happens? Yeah, that now you really are an honorary Mexican. You get a C in Spanish.
I'm oppressed.
Wow.
Oh, well, it's been beautiful talking to you, Kent. Thank you very much for taking our call, sir.
Yeah. One last thing, Ken,
Absolutely.
just from us from here
And
at the.
Billy, whenever you decide to retire, we'll have to sit down and talk at some point in life again.
Oh,
about
that's
the
for
old
sure.
days.
That's for sure.
One thing, Kent, we're here from the Delta Oaks Ranch. We are a sponsor for Mr. Valente's comedy show. So we like to invite you and a guest to his comedy show either on Thursday or Saturday. So I'll go ahead and get in contact with you and we'll see if you can make it out there.
Is it just Saturday?
Yes, I believe. Yeah,
There's one Saturday night. There's one Thursday night.
Oh, in San Antonio.
Oh, yeah, there's San Antonio. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, next time then.
UIL spelling. Yes,
Oh, yeah.
I'm driving
He
from
said
3
he's gonna go
a.m.
judge.
until 8 at night.
Yeah, see, judging, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll get together. We'll
Yeah.
definitely get together at some point.
yeah, we'll contact you. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much, sir.
Love you, sir.
Thank you. It was great talking to both of you.
Likewise,
sir.
Kent. We'll
Thank
see you,
you.
brother.
So,
All right.
thank you. So, tell us a little bit about this picture. What's going on in there?
So that's Godspell. That's Eliborio. He played Jesus, and that's David. He played Judas. It's a religious play about Jesus and Judas, and there's 10 of us, and we're kind of sort of disciples. Each one of us has a song. That's Cindy. That's Cindy Rioja. She was a cheerleader. And that's Debbie. That's me. That's Teresa Eliborio. David, Doris Mendiola, I think, is back there. That was it. That was in the old theater of the old high school. That was a storage shed mostly, and we would move things around. And you can see that the platforms on the bottom are the UIL platforms, and then that's just a table we use to make into some other acting space. But it was a musical, and then straight up. We had Miss Metter, who was another English teacher playing the piano, or we had another Arguelles. Oh, what was his name? Luis? No, maybe it wasn't. I forget. But he was also, they played piano for our singing. And then we did it at here at the high school right across the street from you guys, and down the way. And invited all the parents and all that. And everybody came. I think we did like 3 shows.
So this is what got it all started for you. So what was the first movie that you broke in that you ever made?
The first movie I acted in was actually a movie here at Pan Am. The movie is called The Discouraging Word. The same, during the summer, when I was there, they would do this thing called Summer Stock, which was 4 shows in 6 weeks. And then they decided, once I was a senior there, they decided that what they were going to do is they were going to do, one summer they were going to do a movie, and then the next summer, they're going to do the stage thing, and then the movie, and they were going to go back and forth. So my senior year, I did a movie here at Pan Am called The Discouraging Word.
Okay.
So that was the first official movie I did, but it wasn't a professional movie because it was university.
Okay.
When I got to Los Angeles, the first job I got was on a movie called Salsa, the motion picture. And that was the first movie I did in January of 88.
So you were excited. You did really well on that show, on that movie. And
I was totally excited. I had one of the guys that was, so the guy who had just finished choreographing Dirty Dancing, Kenny Ortega, was the choreographer for Salsa. And he directed a lot of stuff too, because there was a lot of musical stuff, a lot of dancing stuff. And funny the way things work is kind of all circular, because later, 30 years later, now he's one of the producers on High School Musical, the series, which I ended up getting a part on and playing the principal, later. And so that was the first movie I was in, and that really gave me the confidence. Like I said, hey, I guess my work does stack up against these people, and let me go and try and do it. But at that point, I was still thinking, I want to do as much theater as I can. I want to do theater. And I found a place called the Los Angeles Theater Center that had a Latino theater lab attached to it.
Yeah.
And I became a member of that. And so I was a member with them for about 5 or 6 years, and I did a ton of plays. I did some world premieres of Milton Sanchez Scott's plays. And then some other plays as well. And that's where I met my wife as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So which actor do you feel in Hollywood that you've enjoyed working with the most?
Wow. I enjoy all of it. I really have a lot of fun. I mean, part of the thing that happens with me is I'm just totally in love with acting. And I will sit and talk acting for hours and get extremely excited and start gesticulating and all, because I'm just totally into it.
You're the student of the art.
Dude, I'm so into it. And so all of them really, I mean, Albert Finney was a blast because I actually got to spend some, when we did Aaron Brockovich, we went to Ventura to shoot, and we were in Ventura for like 2.5 weeks. And I was staying at the same hotel that Albert Finney was staying in. And after the day was over, he and I would go over to the bar and we'd have a drink, and he'd tell stories about Elizabeth Taylor and Rock Hudson and all these big time,
Interesting.
big time Hollywood stories. And now that's a blast. But as well, Sonia Braga, I did a movie with her. We just had such a beautiful relationship, and still do. We talk to each other every now and then. Julia Roberts, Ben Bratt and Ray Cruz, some of these people that I worked with 30 years ago, I still hang out today. I mean, Ray, the picture you're wearing on your shirt.
Yeah, right here.
He and I go golfing all the time. We just golf.
Is that right?
And he's going to be at Comic-Con tomorrow.
Okay. When
and so that, and then George, some of the easiest stuff to do only because we seem to kind of meet at the same place and have the same kind of crazy, and we kind of crack each other up. Stuff he does, I think is funny, and stuff I do, he thinks is funny. And we poke, and when we were doing the show, we would do all kinds of things to each other to keep the energy going. And then felt so comfortable with him that felt like there's nothing I could say, nowhere I could go that he wouldn't follow, and there's nowhere he would go that I wouldn't follow either. So it was just like an amazing tandem, an amazing team that could just go anywhere and do anything.
I'm curious, Valente, about George Lopez.
Sí.
We were talking about, you click on your acting mode or mojo. What is George Lopez when he's not in actor mode? Personality? What kind of person, in your opinion?
Well, he can be all kinds of things. I mean, he's 100% individual like everybody else. I think he's very shy. Actually, I think he's more of an introvert. I think he's more comfortable just being by himself. I think he's got the kind of brain that he is fine being by himself and fine entertaining himself for hours and hours and hours of playing guitar and, whatever it is that he's doing. He's not a loud person. He can be, but most of the time when you're talking to him, he's very down to earth and very empathetic and listening and stuff like that. Business gets in the way. Being a star gets in the way. Being a celebrity gets in the way. But when you spend a whole bunch of time with him and get to know him the way I did, he's just a normal, everyday guy. It just so happened that his story is unusual, and he's a performer at it. But he does have those times when it's showtime, and so I got to be on. I got to be on. And he's got to work. He's been doing it for longer than I have. He probably got 45 years in the can at it. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. But do you have any particular stories about you working with George Lopez?
The funniest thing was that we would make each other laugh so much, and at a particular point, especially once we had a good shot in the can, we would do things to try and make each other laugh or make the scene even more. There was one scene where. I wore this thing that gave me abs, but along with the abs, it had it was like supposed to be a real chest. So I actually had the nipple part on it, right?
Yeah.
But they were not erect totally, but they were like poking out a little bit, right? And there was a scene where we were supposed to be like dancing or something, and he kept rubbing on him, and I'd rub myself on him like that. And so things you couldn't actually see on TV.
Yeah.
You know, there's one scene where I'm supposed to stop him from going into a particular restaurant, and he just wouldn't stop. So I jump on him and I tackle him to the ground and stuff like that. A lot of that kind of stuff you don't see. Most of the shows that were my favorite on George Lopez were the ones where he eats the worm. He's drinking and he eats the worm, and then he hallucinates. And those shows, to me, are really, really cool. One time he hallucinates that we're gay and we're going to get married, and Angie is the wedding planner. Another show, he hallucinates that he and I switched parts. And I'm George, and he's Ernie, and I'm all kissing the Angie and everything, you know, and he's like, just standing there looking at me. And so those are the shows that are really... pretty amazing.
Those were awesome shows. Just the show of, you know, I really enjoyed all the rewinds. Or what do you call them? You know,
the reruns, the
reruns
syndication
and all
stuff.
that.
Yeah.
Have there ever been discussions of perhaps doing an episode or something?
You know what? We were on the Lopez versus Lopez show, his new show he's got with Mayan, which is also an amazing thing. You guys should all see that show. I knew Mayan when she was like, 4 years old, 5 years old. She was running around the set and stuff. And now she's doing a show with her dad, which is amazing. We were on one of their shows, their Christmas show, but I don't know, man. It's just been so long now. Some things are just better left as is and maybe build on it, build something else on it.
A spin-off?
Do a different, maybe, perhaps. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Hollywood? Who knows?
Yeah.
It's me, Ernie. Quién sabe? There you go. I'll give you a title right there. It's weird the way it works, sometimes, but then as well, sometimes that's all it was meant to be. And it's, you know what? It's really good. So it's maybe we should just leave it as is.
Yeah. No, I understand. So, what's new for you, Valente? What are the new projects that you're willing to share? Like, what are you going to do? Any new projects?
I'm writing a lot. I want to move towards that because what I find is that as a writer, as a creator like that, I can write whatever I want. I don't have to think. As an actor, I got to look at me and what I sound like and what I look like, and these are the parts I can play. As a writer, I can write 1,000 different parts. It doesn't matter if I can play them or not. Yeah. Because I'm just creating them, right? And so that really excites me because then I can go to some places that are weird and stuff, and I can, and it doesn't matter because I'm not writing with a budget in mind. Yeah. So, I can write that somebody's going to go to Mars and stuff like that. I don't care about how much it's going to cost. I'm just creating. That's not my problem, how much it's going to cost. I just write to make it good.
What are one of the stories that you're writing about? Tell us about it.
I'm writing, so I'll tell you this story. I tell this story that it's I'm going to tell you it anyway. It's not 100% finished yet, but
yeah.
So, I'm really interested in these stories of who we are, where we're from, who we are and where we're from, and how that shapes us, right? So, the Rio Grande River being right there, and it's an international border and that kind of stuff. So there's a long time ago in the 1800s, there was a place in somewhere near El Paso where the Rio Grande River, back before it was dammed or anything like that, it was a free flowing river. It split in two and created an island in between the river.
Yeah.
And some dude went and bought the island and declared his own country.
Wow, that is interesting.
All right, really interesting. So that's where the idea came from. So this is what I'm thinking, right? This story revolves around a small little bitty town that was granted to this particular family by the Spaniard and all this land grant.
Yeah.
And they own this piece of property. It's right on the border. It's on the river. And but it's dry. The water's there, and there's green right by where the water is, but most of it is dry. It's dry. You see, parece desert. Well, somebody's going to come in and build a dam. Right? They're going to build a dam and they're going to create this big reservoir, right? And it's going to bring lots of good things, schools and hospitals and education and roadways and economic opportunities because it's going to create this. But the dam, the reservoir it's going to create is going to flood the town completely. So the big question is, what would it take? How much money could I give you for you to never be able to come back to where you're from? And literally, the way I've set the town up, the old patriarch, the old man, has been there for his whole life, and his family has been there his whole life. They take a trip to the little cemetery that's right by the town, and he points, that's your grandfather, that's your great grandfather, that's your cousin, that's your tia, that's your whole family's buried in this place, right? All that place is going to be underwater. You'll never be able to come back and visit these people, right? And so that's the whole question of the town. So that's what the whole film revolves around, this idea of this little town. This dam is going to be built, and it will be built. One way or another. Eventually it will be built because it's a really good idea. But these small amount of people are going to have to pay the price for what everybody else is going to reap. You're going to have to give up their home, right? And so that's what the whole story revolves around. There's some supernatural stuff where I actually put in towards the end is that once it looks like they've lost the battle, it starts to rain, and it starts to rain. And the rain splits the thing in two, leaves the town as an island, and washes away all the bulldozers and all the trucks and all the stuff that we're going to, And so basically they won the battle. They staved off the dam.
Wow.
But eventually it's going to happen again. And eventually they're going to win, because the very last scene in it, which also mirrors the very first scene, is the young man, the son, the grandson of the grandfather, who has since passed away, coming back on the bridge. And you still see this at Falcon Dam. When it's low enough, you see this, you used to be able, I don't know if you still do, you see the cross of the steeple sticking up over the water of where the town used to be. And so the young man's going to move up to the middle of the dam, take a little box out, and pour ashes into the reservoir. Those are the ashes of his grandfather.
Wow.
So that those ashes can join the cemetery of where all the other antepasados have been buried. So that's the general gist of that whole script. It's still in development. Like I said, I'm still trying to work out how to work some things, and I want to shoot it down here in the Rio Grande Valley.
Wow. So after you write it, do you need people to fund it, or like somebody buys it?
That's why I'm always looking for money. We're always looking for money. That's the thing it takes, unfortunately. That's how it works.
Yeah.
And so either somebody will come in and fund all of it, or a group of people to do that, or try and raise, budgets, I don't know, for $500,000, $1.5 million, something like that, to be able to move the script forward. It's a pretty simple script. There's a couple of things we need a lot of money for, like how do you make a river split in two and leave the whole town, that's CGI or whatever.
Yeah, maybe AI. There's so much of that now.
That kind of stuff. Yeah. Do it in that way. There's some other stuff that I have. There's some sitcom stuff that I've already written. There's a script about a taco truck, that sort of stuff. So, yeah. And then now doing stand-up. I really dig into stand-up. I'm really into the idea of one individual getting in front of everybody else and entertaining them for 45 minutes with nothing but just themselves,
Just you.
Yeah. That's a blast.
Well, I'm looking
scary, but it's a blast.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to today and Saturday.
Yeah, I'm hoping you're going to enjoy it. We'll see.
Yeah,
you might come back and go, "Number say, I know he's not funny at all, man. He should stick to selling Coca-Cola on commercials."
I have one last question.
Yes, sir.
That I forgot to ask. I don't mind me asking. So there seems to be some sort of a movement from California to Texas. I've seen some Texas original actors trying to bring production or making movies or Hollywood. What's your opinion about that? Is it really happening? Do you think it's going to be successful?
Oh, no, yeah, it's happening. It's happening. How successful it's going to be, who knows? California is really, really set up, especially Los Angeles, is sort of set up extremely well to do film 364 days a year, because we have about 325 days that are beautiful weather.
Yeah.
And you have the talent pool there. Everybody from the world goes there in terms of writers and directors and producers and that sort of stuff. The downside about Texas is it's just far away from over there. So if you're going to bring actors from over there, it's going to cost you money to fly them over to the hotel, all this other kind of stuff. The thing about the Rio Grande Valley and Texas in particular is we have some severe weather sometimes, either really big cold fronts or really hot. I did a movie down here that we could only shoot like 10, 15 minutes at a time because it was so hot. The camera would get so hot we had to let it cool down.
Wow.
You know, and then you have other problems like the problem of the chicharras. You know the chicharras?
Oh yeah, that background
All over your soundtrack. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So you have those kinds of problems, but you can work around those kinds of things.
Yeah.
The upside is, so California provides a lot of tax breaks, and it's a right to work state. And so some of your people can be non-union. Sometimes you can work out some kind of deal so that you can do a movie for less money. And then the other thing is, for me specifically, because I'm from down here, and when I say I want to do a movie down here, I have a lot of people that come out and help. You know, they provide the restaurant, or they'll provide a meal, or they'll let us use their ranch to film a scene in, and that sort of stuff. And so you could probably make a movie for 20, 30, 40% less than it would cost you in Los Angeles, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I had to bring generators down from San Antonio, and I had to bring, you know, key makeup people and key technical people down from Los Angeles. So it's still going to cost you some money, but it's moving forward in such a way that, yeah, you can do it down here. You can definitely do it down here.
Well, I've seen a trend like big time actors that are trying to bring it to the Austin area.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I even heard, you know, I'm a fan of Joe Rogan, but where he has a big pitch and bringing people down there, friends of his, and they're trying to make movies out there in the Austin area.
Yeah. Well, it would certainly, you know, it's a big time industry, and there's a lot of money to be made at it. The thing about it, though, is it's a big time collaborative thing, right? It's a collaborative job. It doesn't matter if you have the best actor, if you have the worst writer, if you have the worst cinematographer, if you have the worst, you know, that sort of stuff. So it takes a lot of really good energy from a lot of good people and a lot of good things to happen in order for it to be a good production.
Yes.
Right? And that's tough. It's just tough to do.
So what do you mean union and non-union for the local, you know, podcaster listening? Right. I don't even understand that.
So I'm a member of the union, the Screen Actors Guild, which is not really a union. It's a guild. We're a member of the AFL-CIO, I believe it is. But once you become a member of the union, union rule number 1 is you cannot do any non-union work. So I cannot do any non-union work, either theater, film, or television, right? So unless it's under a union contract, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'll get in trouble with the union. Now, there's all kinds of union contracts, and some of them are really, really inexpensive. They do require a bond, but if you're talking about you have a movie that's going to cost you $250,000 to make, right, which isn't like change in terms of the Hollywood money, you can still be a union film for that amount of money. They have experimental contracts, and they have smart they call them something else. Low budget, and then ultra low budget, and then micro budget. And so there you could have a $15,000 production that's union. Yeah. And then when you have that kind of contract, that allows you to pay professional actors, union actors, smaller amounts of money. As something as small as $200 a day, which the real rate is somewhere around $700 or $800 a day, and that's just base salary, right? You could end up paying your characters $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a day, but for $200 a day, you can get a professional actor that has maybe 30, 35 years of experience, a really amazing person to come and be in your production, right? And if you can do that with 4 or 5 different actors, then yeah, you can make a $25,000, $30,000 film with big time actors, you know? And the reason big time actors will do that is because, say, for example, I only get a certain opportunity to play a certain amount of parts, but this particular part that this guy wrote is something I've never played before, or the main character in this thing. It's the first time I'm going to be a main character. So I'll take a lot less money because I think that this job is going to show me off so well that I'm going to get other jobs from it, right? Yeah. Or I believe in this director so much that I know that this job is going to make him get other jobs. And he might give me another job back, and and so that's the way you network back and forth. Or because you work so well with this director, they always want to work with you. And you see that some directors, you see their same actors being cast over and over, right? Because they work well together. They have the same energy. They produce good stuff, right? And so that's a lot of things. A lot of the ways that you can work at being an actor. Although you're already a member of the union. Now, non-union means everybody else who's not in the union. Texas, being a right-to-work state, says no matter what, you cannot deny a person a job because they're a union member, right? So the problem I have, is not with Texas. The problem I have is with my union, who says, I'm not allowed to work. Right.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get in trouble with them because they've been very good to me and they're taking care of me. Right. But the upside is that you can come down here, do a movie that has 90% non-union people and 10% union people. You're paying the union people what they need. You're paying the non-union people what they need because they should probably still get paid regardless of whether they're union or non-union, at least gas money or, money for a taco or something like that. Right.
Right.
And still have a budget that's relatively manageable and have really, really good people and then fill everybody else in because the people that are down here are really good and they could be members of the union. You just don't have another opportunity yet. Right. And some people do use that. The movies that I did, some of the guys did end up joining the union. One ended up working at Westworld, the TV series, and somebody else went and worked on Jane the Virgin and so forth and so on.
Yeah.
And so it is a stepping stone to get to the other place. And the other thing is that I tell people is there's a lot of films going on down here. If you think that that's what you want to do, go volunteer for one of those and at least get a sense of what it's going to be like.
So there's a lot of movies going on in there?
Oh, yeah. There's all kinds of stuff going on down here. Now, most of it is non-paid. You'll see stuff once you know where to go on Instagram and Facebook and stuff. You'll see notices for casting this, casting that. We're going to do this. We're going to do that.
So what do we look for people that are out there that are interested? Can you tell us about them or where on Facebook?
So I know that I forget her last name, but Brenda Patricia, she is casts movies, and so down here they're usually non-union and stuff like that. But they go to her, and then she acts as a casting director and gets her whole group of people. But you know what? I will message you some stuff so that you can, along with this show, you can include.
Yeah, we'll put it on the bottom on the banner.
Yeah. Because maybe Instagram, their Instagram places. So
because I'm positive everybody's going to be watching this podcast. There's a lot of future Valentes out there.
Oh yeah. No, for sure.
They want that opportunity.
And that's all they need.
Yeah.
All they need is the opportunity.
We need to plant those seeds.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, thank you so much, Valente. I really appreciate it. It was a great honor to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I even wore my
shirt.
You and
we could do it again. También next year we'll do it. We'll do another show.
Follow up.
Another visit.
That would be great.
Thank you, brother.
So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir.
Muchas gracias.
Yes, sir. And that's cut.
Órale. Nos vemos.
Bye-bye, everybody. All right. Let's get some lunch.
Very cool.
I hope you